Good morning, everybody. I just would like to encourage you, if anybody here has never experienced listening through a loop, whether you have a hearing loss or not, whether you wear a hearing aid or not, there are earphones that you can use. Just experience it. I think you will be quite amazed. It's my pleasure to introduce, the three panelists, Cindy, Eric, and Fiona. Please come up. We have session 5 this morning is on hearing technologies. And it's really a great lineup of speakers. I think it's going to be a very dynamic group. We have CYNTHIA Compton-Conley, who is going to be doing a technology overview. She's CEO of Compton-Conley Consulting. And we have Eric Mann from the US Food and Drug Administration, who will talk about FDA regulation of hearing aids. And we have Fiona Miller from University of Toronto, who is going to talk about technology assessment. Let's get started. Okay.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay? It's a pleasure to be here. I'm going to take you on a wild 25-minute ride through assistive technology. It's a talk that normally takes 2 hours, so don't blink. What I'm going to cover is current and future technologies, talk a little bit about some applications, barriers to use, and then make some suggestions for how to remove the barriers. This next slide is my attempt to summarize all of the possible technologies that we have at our disposal now. And if you look across the top, you'll see that I've tried to apply them to severity of hearing loss. So you'll notice at the top there's a blue group. Those are all the hearing aids, cochlear implants, hybrids, etc. And the bottom group are the hearing assistance technologies, also called assistive listening devices, as well as alerting devices. So most of the time, people are trained to go to the blue group first as the heart of hearing enhancement. And I'm not going to go into all of these technologies right now, except to say that we all know they've advanced over the years. There's very sophisticated signal processing and all of these systems, but they all have one thing in common. The microphone is worn on the head, and as Terry eloquently talked about yesterday, this means that speech understanding is going to be negatively influenced by room acoustics. So if you look at that Venn diagram, you see there's a synergistic effect among audibility, noise, reverberation. So what happens is the target signal, whatever it is you're trying to listen to, whether it's speech or music, could become too soft, masked or covered up by the noise, smeared by reverberation, or any combination of the above. So directional microphones, while we have a large body of evidence that shows that they do improve ability to understand speech in noise, in certain real-world settings, they don't always do that. They may function as if they're omnidirectional, especially if you're seated beyond the critical distance in the reverberation of the room. So they're not always a solution for face-to-face communication. In addition, hearing aids and implants alone don't always work for media. For example, if somebody wears implants, or a hearing aid and an implant, and they want to listen to media privately using an iPod, they need an extra technology to do that. In addition, these devices don't always work by themselves for the telephone. For example, you can't always pick up certain cell phones and hold them up to your hearing aid or you'll have a buzz. You may need other technologies. And then finally, they don't always warn people, of convenience sounds, security sounds, different cues. And there's so many sounds in our environment today. In the old days, we had to listen to one ringtone. Now we may have 10 ringtones, a refrigerator telling us when it's time to go buy cheese. There's all types of things we have to listen to. So what I'd like to point out here is that we all have 4 receptive communication needs. We all need to engage in face-to-face communication, one-to-one, group. We need to receive media on various platforms, and we also have to engage in telecommunications on various platforms. And we all need to be alerted to various signals. And these 4 needs have to be met in various venues of a person's life. So home, work, volunteer work, leisure activities. So this is why you have to do a needs assessment. You have to have a grid in your mind of 4 needs, all the venues. Because in each venue, the technology could be the same or a little twist or some totally different technology. For example, I might have a patient who uses FM at home, but cannot use wireless technology at the NSA. And that happens a lot in the DC area. So what we have here is a necessary partnership between the personal hearing instruments and the hearing assistance technologies. And all this does is take the improvement in communication that modern hearing instruments can provide and extend it. I like to look at the technology types in 4 different ways. You can classify them according to the 4 needs, how they're going to be used. You can classify them according to ownership, so personal, public, portable, stationary, hardwired, wireless. So I'm going to talk about technologies for face-to-face and media first. And I'm not going to go over this slide because, well, a little bit, because Terry talked about it yesterday, but this catch-carry couple issue is that basically an assistive listening device, you can compare it crudely to binoculars for the ears. Just as binoculars take a distant image and make it close so you can inspect it. That's what assistive listening devices do. They reach out, they grab the sound, they function like a third ear, as Mark Ross would say, and bring it close so you can hear. They don't cure the room acoustics, but they overcome the room acoustics. So you can have a hardwired or a wireless link between the sound source and the listener. And I'm just going to go through some of these technologies. Probably most of you have heard about the ubiquitous pocket talker. How many have ever used the pocket talker? This is kind of like a body aid. So you have a microphone, an amplifier, and then you have earphones. And so you can even add an extra microphone that you would lapel on a person. And so you could have 2 people seated across the table or in a counseling situation in a hospital, nursing home, etc. And just put earphones on the person and talk to the person rather than yelling at them, because maybe the person doesn't have amplification yet. At the bottom of the slide, you'll see there's 3 methods of coupling. And this is going to be reoccurring, and I'm going to make a point with this in a few slides. But acoustic coupling is using earphones on a naked ear. Inductive coupling is using a neck loop or a silhouette inductor, which sends electromagnetic energy to a circuit inside the hearing aid or the implant called a telecoil. It's a wireless receiver. And then the third method is direct audio input, where you would plug a wire into the bottom of a hearing aid or an implant. And one of the decisions that has to be made is which coupling is best for the person. And so that's part of the needs assessment process. As far as the wireless technologies are concerned, I'm going to talk about what I call the classic technologies: infrared, frequency modulation, and induction, hearing loops, and then also the more modern wireless systems. These are wireless hearing aids with what we call connectivity. It's the same idea as classic systems, it's just a new twist on it. So for example, in this slide, I'd like to call your attention to, the top of the slide. I divide these systems into 2 systems. It's just my own way of doing it. There are systems that always need a streamer, and there are systems that only need a streamer for phone. So certain of the systems, you'll use a TV transmitter that you can plug into the back of a TV or other sound source, and a battery-powered microphone you could clip to a spouse. These are Bluetooth. They transmit to a gateway device called a streamer. It's technically called a transceiver because it receives one form of energy, changes it to another. So in this particular product, it changes it into a proprietary near-field magnetic induction signal that's received by a radio inside the wireless hearing aids. The second type of system, these are Resound and Starkey right now. They don't need an intermediary device, at least for microphone and TV. So you could take a spouse mic, go to a restaurant, and just talk to the other person, or plug a transmitter in the back of your TV, walk into your living room, and boom, here's stereo. So people really like that option. These can also be used in the workplace. You could use, sometimes people use TV in the workplace for teleconferencing. You could also put microphones around an office table. Things get a little complicated if you're trying to do ADA access and people have more than one brand of system because they're not compatible with each other. So I've been in situations where there's like 80 microphones on a table. I'm exaggerating, but. As far as the classic technologies are concerned, infrared can be used at home. You've heard of TV ears. That's probably the most commonly known one, but there are other systems made by Sennheiser and others, so that you can attach a TV transmitter to the back of your TV system. You could also use a transmitter in an office. These are often used in places where security is concerned because infrared won't leave the room. So people use them in juvenile court, for example. So you have the same methods of coupling. And then you could, oh, I think I'm missing, no. All right, I changed my slides last night. So then you can have FM systems is another option, and these are used in school systems, but adults also use them, and probably it's one of the more versatile classic systems because you also have a battery-powered microphone all the way to the left that people can wear, so people can have a conversation in a restaurant, in a car, at home, at work, at play. You can also put a transmitter on a table and have one or more microphones or attach it to your TV set. And there's also one additional option on the far right, which is DAI, but it's a BTE receiver. So the FM receiver is not one on the body. It's plugged into the bottom of a hearing aid or an implant or incorporated into the case of the device. And then the last but not least is induction loop. So a person can buy an induction loop system for $300, plug it into the back of the TV, has an amplifier, a wire that goes around the room, and just like the streamer systems where you can just walk in and start to hear, you can do that with a loop system as long as you have one thing, a telecoil inside your hearing aid or your implant. You can loop a table, a chair, an office. This room was looped. The floor was taken up and this room was looped. There are two types of loops. Perimeter and phased array. Perimeter is just a wire going around the room. So if you're wearing a hearing aid, the telecoil has to be mounted vertically. With a phased array, it doesn't matter how it's mounted, but you always want it vertical. And I've been in situations where I've given talks and I've watched people in the audience look at me like this or like this because their telecoil's not situated in the hearing aid properly. Or even more importantly, well, just as importantly, the telecoils have not been programmed to be equal to the microphone circuit. I once saw a man rip the duct tape off of a loop and put the loop on his shoulder so he could hear better. I once saw a guy lie down on the floor, which sort of made it difficult to speech read. I've seen it all. I've been in the trenches. So let me also talk about FM, infrared, and loop in terms of permanently installed systems for large areas. These can be mandated under ADA or not. So with these systems, you have less coupling options. So in this room, we have a system that uses a loop, but they all have a mixer amplifier. We have a hardwired microphone here. You might have wireless. We have, if you want to play a sound, it's in the mixer. And then on the output stage, you have an FM transmitter. But under ADA, theaters, et cetera, are only required to have two forms of coupling, acoustic and inductive, usually a neck loop, because you can't expect them to have every single direct audio input cord for all the makes and models of hearing aids and implants. It would be insane. Same thing with infrared, same coupling. So if you want to access FM or infrared or loop, you have to have a telecoil, either in your hearing aid or implant or in your streamer. And some of the hearing aid companies have telecoils inside the streamer. If you don't have that, then all the way to the right, the venue might supply an under the chin or neck loop receiver with a big telecoil in it. But that will only work if you don't have too great of a hearing loss and if you have more of a flat loss, not a strange ski slope configuration. So I'm going to give you two scenarios, the life of a consumer using large area systems. And this is based on 30 years of working with consumers, as well as research by American Academy of Audiology and the Hearing Loss Association, work now being done by Juliet Sturkins. And I've read survey results of how people react to these different systems, okay? So if you're going into a theater that has an FM or infrared, you're going to have a nice evening with your spouse or your friend. You buy the ticket. You ask for the ALD receiver. You have to hand over your driver's license. And then you have a pretty significant loss, and you want a receiver with a neck loop, but they give you one with earphones. So you politely say, well, no, I really want one with a neck loop. And the manager goes and digs one out. And believe me, this happens. I was hired by a special master to the court after an ADA lawsuit of Cineplex Odeon, and I had to dress up in disguises and ask for ALDs for 3 years as part of my job. It was fun. I saw a lot of movies. It was pretty fun. So Then he gets the neck loop, you go into the theater, your receiver's dead. You're like, oh my God, I've kind of had it. The manager gets a new battery. Now the receiver's intermittent, the volume control's all dirty, it sounds like crap. And the manager just says, I don't know what to tell you, we're in compliance. You know, we're following the law. It gives you your money back, gives your ID back, you're really unhappy. And you just want to go home and reenact scenes of Platoon. You're just so annoyed. Or you go to the Kennedy Center, there's a loop system installed according to IEC standards. Your telecoils are perfectly programmed by your expert audiologist. They're inside your hearing aid or your streamer. You buy the ticket, you walk in, you don't have to ask permission to hear. You flip your hearing aid to telecoil, maybe even empty so you can hear your spouse without having to yell. You can hear your own voice. You enjoy the show, you feel happy, and voila. So when consumers, you know, people will say, well, infrared systems can be stereo, and they can, and some people can detect stereo over diotic signals. We've done some studies on that at Gallaudet, where even people with severe to profound loss can tell the difference between a dichotic and a diotic signal. But for ease of use, loops win hand down. So until we find something better, don't be making fun of loops, because I hear that all the time. I see blogs about it, and it really is annoying. And so I'm telling everybody who's watching this webcast, just think about it. It's great to work for yourself. All right, there's a new technology, spread spectrum frequency hopping, and this is very exciting to me because these are portable systems with the same coupling options as FM, but they have the option for being used one-way or two-way communication. So for ADA access, it's great for one-to-one, little tour groups, 100-people tour groups. Here's a situation where everybody's wearing a transceiver, so all 4 hard of hearing people can talk to and hear each other. And the mics are open, so it's more of a natural conversation. Or you could set it up. I did a setup one time where there was a Spanish-speaking tour guide speaking to a hard of hearing Spanish to English interpreter to a group of hard of hearing and normal hearing people who needed to talk back to the tour guide through the interpreter. You can do things like that. I've set up professors who are hearing impaired and have to hear a whole group of students. I've done board meetings. You can do medical school operating theaters. But you have to first assess the needs and find out what kind of communication is going on so you can decide what type of microphones, what type of receivers, do I need transceivers, what about the lighting, what about the seating, and you need to set up rules of communication. It's a mix of technology and training. You can't solve problems with just technology. People have to know how to use it. So you have to put need before the technology. This is the takeaway from this section I've just been talking about. It's a cacophony of coupling options. There's all these different systems. I mean, if this is confusing to you, imagine your mom trying to figure this out. You know, so each person's system has to be adjusted to achieve the best signal. The telecoils have to be programmed. And then the systems requiring receivers like FM or infrared, you know, they require maintenance in large areas. And again, you have to have a telecoil to have access to large areas. I want to also talk about the third need, telephone. And I don't have a lot of time, so I'm just going to breeze through this and hit the highlights. But this diagram shows all the different ways you can couple to landline, VoIP, and cell phones. But let me just talk about a few options. I like to provide binaural listening to people because research has shown that it does improve understanding, except for certain people. So for example, if you look to the left, you'll see several hardwired technologies for cell phones and landline VoIP phones. You can plug in, sorry about that, you can plug in silhouette inductors and go hardwired. You can plug in a neck loop. If somebody's using a Vista 22 headset, maybe they're a telemarketer and they have a hearing loss, replace the headset with a neck loop. You have wireless Bluetooth technologies, and also all the way to the right, Plantronics makes a Bluetooth hub with a headset, and you can put the headset away and just use several of the streamers because they will work with it. And this is just a snapshot of a whole host of technologies that can be used for telecommunications access at home and at work. There's captioning now. We're watching live captioning, but there's landline captioning, smartphone apps, so you can caption on your smartphone and use a hands-free interface at the same time. Captioning can be used by itself or in addition to auditory input. There's web-based captioning for teleconferencing. There's other text services. We all know about email and instant messaging, but there are automatic voicemail transcription services that normal hearing people use, but hard of hearing people also use, so that your voicemail is sent to you via a text or an email. And Gallaudet's done some research on this, and I put a link here so that you can read up about it. There are specialty devices. Anybody working in the medical profession could use an amplified stethoscope or a visual stethoscope for auscultation. I was happy to see this app because I remember when I once recommended a portable oscilloscope for a medical student. They actually made them, but it was sort of bulky, but at least she was able to go through medical school. And then last but not least, this always gets short shrift, are alerting devices for home, office, and public areas. So if you look all the way to the left, you see all the various sounds that can occur in a person's day from the time they wake up till the time they go to bed. And we also have various cueing sounds. And there are alerting devices that will pick up these sounds using a microphone, direct connection. I've recommended pressure mats for severely hard of hearing people, children of a mother who had Alzheimer's. And they wanted to know in the middle of the night if she left her room. So if she walked out of her room, she'd step on a mat and their bed would shake so they could, watch her. These systems can be hardwired or wireless, and then you can use an auditory signal enhanced or visual vibrotactile or a combination. Mostly they're standalone systems. Unitron, one of the hearing aid companies, I have to give them credit. They're working with a Swedish company that makes alerting devices, and then there's a gateway device. So you don't have to have your hearing aids on to know that things are happening, but if they are on, this gateway device will take the signal from the alerting devices and make a little beep in your ear. And I know that Apple has a conceptual patent for a similar thing. So they're thinking along those lines. I do want to take a couple minutes to talk about fire safety, because this is a concern, and I know Terry mentioned this yesterday, I think. I used to sit on the National Fire Protection Association Committee for Notification Devices, and we were able to get new standards passed for visual notification devices for the deaf. There is a body of literature now, Bruck and Thomas. I have a link at the bottom where you can find more information. But, there's some pretty scary statistics. Individuals aged 65 and older have more than twice the national death rate, more than twice the national average. Most current smoke detectors, the kid smoke detectors, peak at 3,100 hertz, right where people have hearing loss. And there's a 40 dB difference in alerting to a signal from being awake versus asleep. So if you're in a deep sleep, you're on medication, you're sleep deprived, you're under your pillow, and your smoke detector's behind a closed door, you might not hear it. Also, research that I've done, NIH-sponsored research, shows that people with hearing loss incorrectly assume that they will be able to hear the smoke detector. And if you ask them if they tested it, they say, oh yeah, I pressed the button, I could hear it. Well, you're awake, you're not asleep. What sleep state are you in? So this is a concern. I think this needs to be recommended more often than it's not, because people don't have their hearing aids on all the time, or their implants. Now I'd like to take a little time to talk about disruptive technologies, a couple companies that are kind of leaping into new areas. And I included this slide because in my hotel, you're allowed to ask for a pet. And I have a goldfish in my room named Killer. The Hotel Monaco, in case you want to have a little pet. But he kept me up last night splashing. So I had to move him into the bathroom and shut the door. So Resound had these streamer systems, I call them first generation. They have a system where you use their transceiver, and so a Bluetooth-enabled phone will send to the transceiver, and then a proprietary Bluetooth-like signal will be sent to the Resound hearing aids. But they have been working with Apple, and in the spring you will see the new iPhone with Bluetooth 4.0, so that you can stream voice calls, podcasts, FaceTime straight to the hearing aids. So you might say to yourself, well, this is pretty good. It's like the Holy Grail. We don't have to carry a streamer around. But the astute person would say, wait a minute, don't I need a telecoil in large areas? And you do. So until we have something like Wi-Fi, where I could take my cell phone into a theater, and people are working on this, and then Wi-Fi goes to my phone, and then my phone goes to my hearing aid, or maybe it goes directly, we still need to think about how do people access these large area systems. So it might be a situation where, depending on a person's need, they're using wireless hearing aids, but they still have a telecoil in their hearing aid or their streamer. Also, I'd like to see the day where people could come to my house for the Super Bowl party. It doesn't matter what hearing aid they're wearing, doesn't matter what implant. Maybe there's a chip built in my hearing aid, just like closed caption decoder chips, that's universal design. So anybody, any make, any model of hearing enhancement devices will work, and you don't need to hook it up. Remember the old days when we had to teach people how to hook up a caption decoder? It was horrible. That was when hair was bad and shoulder pads were bad too, I think. All right. Why is my, okay. So I also see the day where maybe we'll have a Swiss Army knife device that will meet 4 needs, be a hearing protector, be self-adjusting. I only have 30 seconds. There is research being done at National Acoustic Laboratories and elsewhere on self-fitting hearing aids. So that's something that might happen. Apple has a patent. Richard Einhorn's going to talk later about smartphones being used as hardwired hearing enhancement devices. And then I just want to end by saying, you know, we really need to look at what consumers really want, what they need, and how do we meet the needs. So this is like the $1 million slide here. They want full communication access for a lifetime. So we need to employ a holistic needs assessment process that carefully assesses residual hearing using best practices, speech and noise testing, analyzes individual needs, the 4 needs in the venues. You could use self-assessment inventories. You have to look at their health, their situation, their finances, their tech savviness. And then we devise a customized solution set of technology and training and verify it and validate it and have a feedback loop that if it's not verified, if it's not validated, you're not going to recommend it. And people make the mistake of jumping in to the technology before they analyze the needs. Or they analyze the needs, they recommend the technology, and they don't program the telecoil, for example. So this needs to stop. So I guess I don't have time to go over my challenges and solutions, but you can read them in the, I guess the one thing I would say that I think we need a required sequence of didactic and clinical work for audiologists. And it needs to be standardized across programs, and we need to be board certified in this, or even better yet, it needs to be a minimal requirement. It needs to be a minimal requirement. So I'll stop now, since this thing has been blinking for a while.